Okay, guys, welcome to Friday Night Tech Talk. I'm hoping we don't have any technical issues this week. Welcome to Friday Night Tech Talk. That's a good sign. I guess my phone is making some noise. That's a good sign. So if you're new here, welcome. You're on the Mobile Geezer channel. If you're on YouTube and if you're on either one of my Facebook IDs, we live stream all three at once. On Facebook, it's Mobile Geezer or George Hayes. So we do this every Friday night. We talk about some articles from last Friday to this Friday. And Eleanor is the first one in. So always glad to have her here. And right behind her, there's Annette. Boy, you guys are right on time. Two of my most faithful and favorite subscribers. Glad to have you both here. We'll see who else comes in. Speaking of which, if you're new, please drop something in the comments. Let us know you're here and let us know where you're from. So, most weeks, I pick some stories that I think might be interesting to some of us tech nerds and whatever's big, like last week last week it was the Apple event. This week there were no big events, as far as I know. You guys let me know if I'm wrong. So I got to pick some articles that I just thought were interesting. Those are always kind of interesting weeks for me because I like to see who else thinks my nerdy stuff is just as interesting as I do. So every week I put the stories for the show notes on my webpage. So let me show you that. Let me share screen. Go to my webpage. So if you go over to mobilegeezer.wordpress.com, click on today's date, and you'll get just the show notes for tonight. Oh, and before I give you the preview of tonight's show notes, this week just happens to be a week where I happen to hit stuff. So got my got my Google Pixel 9 Pro. So I just got this on Tuesday, I believe. Loving it so far. I gave you guys a very quick unboxing. I have a speaking case coming in, and I'm going to go over the entire phone when I do. I bought it myself, so I won't be doing it for them. But when we go over the case, we'll go over every inch of this phone. So I just wanted to let you guys know that. Also this week, I got my Pixel 3 watch. So just got that Wednesday, I think. So I gave an unboxing of that too. And finally, sometime this weekend, we'll do an unboxing of the new Apple Watch 10. So that just came today. Haven't even opened the box yet. Just wanted to let you guys know that will be coming sometime this weekend. And since my trade-in for the Pixel 9 Pro was my Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra, I'll do a camera comparison between those two before I mail in my S23 Ultra. And I'll follow that up probably in a couple of days with a Pixel 9 Pro against the Pixel 8a camera comparison, and we'll see how that goes. So let's go back to the show notes on my webpage, and we'll do a quick preview. Like I said, just stories that I thought were interesting. So we're going to start with Alibaba. Alibaba taking on the competition with many new AI models. So Alibaba wants to fight the big boys with AI. So I just thought that would be an interesting story. That was on CNBC. Pardon me. And then, can social media companies be allowed to police themselves? No. says the FTC. That I found on The Verge. And if you're looking for Amazon, Google, Facebook, and any of them to police themselves, I wouldn't count on it. And we'll talk about that in that story. And then, remember, we're not officially getting Apple Intelligence until sometime starting next month, all the way into Christmas, all the way into next year. But if you did get on the iOS public beta, which I finally did because I wanted to see it, I got the iOS 18 the other night, and then yesterday, Apple Intelligence became available, iOS 18.1, with the first bits of Apple Intelligence. So I went ahead and joined the iOS beta. So we'll go over that story. That's also on The Verge, just to let you guys know that if you are on the beta for iOS, you can see Apple Intelligence right away, just what they're allowing so far, of course. And we're going to follow it up. iPhone sales, not great, but one winner so far. That was on Tom's Guide. So the sales are not working out the way they thought they would. And surprisingly, one of them, the one they didn't expect, is outselling the others. And we'll go over that. And this, I just found an interesting story on Android Authority. Google's fines for the past 10 years worldwide. And we know there's been more and more and more scrutiny on Google, both in the EU and in America. Well, they've been sued by countries all over the globe, which we will see in this story. And then again, I just thought, interesting story. I said another SpaceX Crew 9 delay, very short delay. That's on Digital Trends. And I'm not sure how many of you guys find the SpaceX stuff interesting. I know Mike does because he loves that kind of stuff. So I just thought it was an interesting. And these stories basically are all kind of short. There's one long one. And finally, just because we've reported so much bad Intel news over the past few months, I said Intel gets some good news for a change, at least in battery life. And I found that on Digital Trends. So those are the stories we'll check out tonight. So nothing new in the comments. So we'll go back to the top and we'll start with Alibaba. Alibaba taking on the company. Oh, yeah. And if Ted comes in, I will certainly let you know. I haven't heard from Ted or Mike or anybody. And of course, by some miracle, Will decides to join us. That's fine too. But Alibaba taking on the competition with many new AI models. So we'll head over to CNBC. And this was from yesterday. Let's get out of that. Let's see. And it's by Aryan Karpal. I hope I'm saying it right. Aryan Karpal. And China's Alibaba launches over 100 new open source AI models, releases text-to-video generation tool. And like I said, that was from yesterday. So let's drop this into reader view and get rid of some of these ads. Okay. Alibaba on Thursday released more than 100 open source artificial intelligence models and boosted the capabilities of its proprietary technology as it looks to ramp up competition with rivals. The newly released models, known as Qwen 2.5, are designed for use in applications and sectors ranging from automobiles to gaming and science research, Alibaba says. So they're going all over the place with these. They have more advanced capabilities in math and coding, it added. The Hangzhou headquartered firm is looking to increase competition with domestic rivals such as Baidu and Huawei, as well as U.S. titans like Microsoft and OpenAI. So they're really going up against the big boys. AI models are trained on huge amounts of data. We all know that. Alibaba says its models have the ability to understand prompts and generate text and images. Open source means that anyone, including researchers, academics, and companies, and even people like you and me around the world, can use the models to create their own generative AI apps without needing to train their own systems, saving time and expense. By open sourcing the models, Alibaba hopes more users will use its AI, which makes sense, I guess. So you'll get developers, you'll get companies, and maybe just some normal people like you and me. So that should spread it faster. I guess that's what they're counting on. The Chinese e-commerce giant first launched its Tongyi Qianwen or Quen model last year. Since then, it has released improved versions and says that to date, its open source models have been downloaded 40 million times. So, good start, I'd say. The company also said that it upgraded its proprietary flagship model called Quen Max, which is not open sourced. Instead, Alibaba sells its capabilities through its cloud computing products to businesses. Alibaba says that Quen Max 2.5 Max surpassed rivals such as Meta's Llama, that's pretty good, and OpenAI's GPT-4, that's very good, in several areas, including reasoning and language comprehension. Now, of course, they're not showing us, at least not here. So we, I guess, take their word for it. Alibaba also launched a new text-to-video tool based on its AI models. This allows users to input a prompt, and the AI will create a video based on it. This is similar to OpenAI's Sora. Alibaba Cloud is investing with unprecedented intensity in the research and development of AI technology and the building of its global infrastructure, Eddie Wu, CEO of Alibaba, said in a statement. Wu, who took over the role of CEO at Alibaba last year amid a historic reshuffle, has been trying to reinvigorate growth at the tech giant as it faces headwinds, including rising competition and a sluggish Chinese consumer. Alibaba is one of the biggest cloud computing players in China, but internationally, it trails the likes of Amazon, I'm sure AWS, and Microsoft. The company is hoping that its latest AI offerings may tempt customers inside and outside of China to sign up to its cloud services, boosting a division which has been sluggish but showed early sign of acceleration in the June quarter. So if they're getting anywhere near close to Amazon or Microsoft in cloud, they're doing pretty good. So just thought that was an interesting story because you don't hear much about Alibaba, but we know they're one of the biggest corporations in the world. So just thought it was interesting to show that. And let's see. Let me get out of this for a minute. Brian is in here. Welcome, Brian. Glad to have you, brother. The ladies beat you here tonight, but of course, you guys are the most faithful. Annette's got to go, and she always does catch us on the replay. And she says, have an e-waste drive tomorrow, so she's got to get ready for that, I guess. So, always glad to have you. So that was the very first story with Alibaba, and nothing else new. So let's go back to our second story. Okay. So as I told them, Brian, nothing overwhelming this week. So I just picked stories that I thought were interesting. So can social media companies be allowed to police themselves? No, says the FTC. And this story proves no is the right answer. This was on The Verge. The FTC says social media companies can't be trusted to regulate themselves. Gee, what a surprise. A new report reveals just how much Facebook, YouTube, X, and other platforms gobble up user data. And this was from yesterday by Gabby DeValle. I guess that's how you would pronounce it. So let's drop it into read a view. The Federal Trade Commission published a new report about the data collection policies of social media platforms and video streaming services, and the results are damning, if not unexpected. And I think it's good that we all should follow stories like this once in a while, just to know how much they're really grabbing our data and how much of it. The report, which was released on September 19th, so yesterday, found that these platforms not only surveil consumers, but often retain vast troves of data indefinitely. That's scary. About users and non-users, that's also scary, alike, and suggests they can't be trusted to regulate themselves. Yeah, I don't think anybody, should even be thinking about let them regulate themselves. Given the billions of dollars companies stand to earn from collecting and monetizing user data, self-regulation has been a failure, the report says. Predicting, shaping, and monetizing human behavior through commercial surveillance is extremely profitable. It's made these companies some of the most valuable on the planet, and putting industry in charge has had predictable results. That makes perfect sense. The problem, the report finds, lies not with one particular company's business model, but industry-wide. I'm sure they're all the same. Industry-wide incentive structures that reward harvesting, collecting, and monetizing user data. Yeah, billions worth, I'm sure. While lucrative for the companies, these surveillance practices can endanger people's privacy, threaten their freedoms, and expose them to a host of harms like identity theft and stalking. FTC Chair Linda Kahn said, I like that lady, said several firms' failure to adequately protect kids and teens online is especially troubling. The report is based on questions the FTC sent to 9 companies in December 2020 under Section 6B of the FTC Act, which lets the commission conduct studies without specific law enforcement purpose. Well, they shouldn't be allowed to conduct studies. I don't see why not. The orders were sent to Amazon, which owns Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, X. I don't know why they put Twitter and X separately. They're the same company. Snap, ByteDance, owner of TikTok, Discord, Reddit, and WhatsApp, and focused on these companies' data collection and retention practices, as well as how these practices affect children and teenagers. So you got some of the biggest companies on earth right here. Among the findings in the 129-page report is the fact that even people who don't use these platforms had their data collected. That's the part that bothers me most. So I'm a user, you're collecting my data, but you're collecting data from even people I interact with. That's really bad in my opinion. The companies acquired consumer data from a variety of sources, including advertisers and data brokers. Advertising tracking technology and inferences from algorithms, data analytics, or artificial intelligence. So they have lots of ways to collect. Companies can retain this data indefinitely, the report found, and some didn't delete users' data in response to deletion requests. Are you surprised? Instead, some companies de-identified data rather than deleting it, while others would only delete some data. Now, the fact that they said, okay, we didn't delete it, but we did de-identify it. And as a developer or programmer, you're going to tell me I couldn't write some quick little program or app that'll take who it is and then push that into a separate file somewhere and then say, well, we did de-identify it. Like I couldn't pull it back in and identify who it was. That's stupid. Anyway, the report ends with recommendations to curb these practices, which the document says are incentivized by the company's business models. The FTC encourages Congress to pass comprehensive privacy legislation to limit surveillance. The problem with, I agree Congress needs to do something, but who are these Congress people going to listen? They know nothing about this stuff, so they have to listen to the people advising them. And are those people honest? Who knows? And who is paying them? I wouldn't be surprised with some of these companies. In the interim, the commission suggests that companies limit their own data collection policies. Yes, suggest, that's it. Stop using privacy-intensive ad tracking technologies and implement greater privacy protections for teenagers. I wouldn't hold my breath waiting for any of those companies to do any of those things. Just me. But like I said, I think we should all get these kind of articles periodically, at least, to get some idea of just how deep and how much in depth this stuff goes, because it's our privacy that's being played with here. So just another interesting story. I thought, okay, nothing new in the comments. So we'll go on to the next. It's going to be a quick night, I would think. Let me get a quick sip of my green tea. Next one up, Apple Intelligence again. I just said, get your Apple Intelligence now in iOS public beta. And that just came out yesterday. And that's also on The Verge. Apple Intelligence is now available in public betas. And I did download it last night. And I haven't even had a chance to use it yet. And I don't have my iPhone with me today. Today at work, I took my Pixel 9 Pro, which I showed you, and my backup was my Nothing Phone 2, which just updated to the September update yesterday. No, this morning. So at least Nothing is keeping me up to date, which is great. Okay. So Intelligence now available in public betas. Perfect timing if you want to try Apple's AI features on your iPhone 16. And I got to tell you guys, when I did that Gemini live demonstration for you guys in that video I did the other day, it kind of whet my appetite. So when I saw the Apple Intelligence was available, I figured, okay, let me get it on my iPhone. But like I said, I haven't had a chance to use it yet because I worked yesterday and today. So this story came out also yesterday by Jay Peters. Let's drop into reader view. Apple has just released public betas of iOS 18.1, iPad OS 18.1, and Mac OS Sequoia 15.1. And I got that on my Mac also. I'm hearing talking. Oh, it's my own phone. That's why, because I don't have it turned all the way down. There we go. Okay. And they include upcoming Apple Intelligence features like text rewriting tools, the Glowy, remember that was the name of their event, new Siri design, a cleanup tool that removes objects from your photos, and more. To be able to access the betas, you'll need to register on Apple's beta software program site, which was very easy to do. Once you've done that, you should be able to see the beta update available in settings for you to download and install. Note that only a few iPhones can access that. This is the key. The Apple Intelligence features. This is iPhone 15 Pro phones, and I have the 15 Pro Max. That's why I was able to get it. As well as the nearly here iPhone 16. Yeah, they all came out today with their iPhone 16 reviews because technically, I guess this was iPhone day. And iPhone 16 Pro. iPads and Macs with M1 chips or newer can try Apple Intelligence as one. Yeah, and I have the MacBook Air with the M1 chip, so I was able to get that Sequoia 15.1. Previously, these Apple Intelligence features were only available as part of developer betas, and my colleague Allison Johnson wrote about her experience testing the tools on iOS in July. But you should know that what's included in these betas isn't everything. That's true. Apple has announced for Apple Intelligence there's more coming down the line, sure, all the way into December and next year. Apple plans to release the final versions of iOS 18.1, iPad OS 18.1, and macOS Sequoia 15.1 in October. When they say final versions, that's for the features that are coming in October. Then there's December, there's a bunch of other new features, and then in January or February, there'll be more features. So they're very much in dribs and drabs. Apple Watch. Oh, okay. And that's the end of that story. And I'm not going to do that because we're going to unbox the Series 10 sometime this weekend. So I just wanted to let you guys know that Apple Intelligence for beta is available to you guys if you want to get it, if you have a 15 Pro or you got a new 16. So, and from the last story, Brian said, yeah, social media companies love you, and that's what makes them richer and richer and richer. That's for sure. But I just think it's good for me to let people see these stories. Okay, so the Apple Intelligence is available. Now, I'm going to be busy in the next week or so with a lot of stuff besides my 3 days of work. So I'm hoping I have time to get into the Apple Intelligence that's now on my iPhone, but it's going to be a very busy week, so we'll see how it goes. So, next story. I just thought this was an interesting story I happened to find on Tom's Guide. iPhone 16 sales, not great, but one winner so far, not the one you'd expect. So let's go into Tom's Guide. iPhone 16 pre-order sales have a surprising big winner and a very big loser. Oh, and by the way, remember they kept telling us that the 20th would be the day we'd all start getting. People got their phones, and I got my watch. So they kept their promise there. Just wanted to let you guys know that. Okay. A surprising big winner and a very big loser. It's by Dave Leclerc, published 3 days ago. Well, that's unexpected. So let's jump into read review, get rid of some of these ads. Now that the dust has settled on the iPhone 16 pre-orders, analysts are looking at which models are shipping well and which aren't. It turns out that the usual suspects aren't doing as well as expected. Apple industry analyst Ming-Chi Kuo dug into the sales, and he's like the expert, data regarding the iPhone 16 models and found that the iPhone 16 Pro and 16 Pro Max sold less than last year's models. On the other hand, the 16 and 16 Plus sold more than the iPhone 15 devices, so kind of reversed from last year. Kuo looked at a Kuo looked at a supply chain survey and ship dates from Apple's website to approximate how well each iPhone model sold during their first few days on the market. Based on the data, here's what Kuo found regarding iPhone 16 sales. Pro Max is down 16% compared to last year. Pro is down 27% compared to last year. 16 Plus, get this, is up 48%. That's pretty good compared to last year. And regular 16 up 10% compared to last year. If the data is correct, the iPhone 16 Plus is the big winner, I'd say so, for 2024. A 48% year-over-year increase is massive and shows that people want a larger phone but aren't necessarily interested in the extra features offered by the Pro Max. This tracks what Jason England had to say about this year's phone, concluding that with the many shared features, iPhone 16 just made the iPhone 16 Pro look pointless. I guess buyers are agreeing with that. Speaking of the Pro Max, it was down 16% compared to 2023's opening iPhone weekend. The base Pro was also down a staggering 27%, making it the biggest iPhone release window loser, though that may not be enough to stop it from being one of the best phones. That's true. Once we get a chance to review it, it could still be a great phone. Let's see. Brian says something. Apple Intelligence delay is bogus. It was only 100% right. Tech Odyssey has been incensed about it, and you guys are absolutely right. They spent all their time trying to get us to buy this iPhone 16 because that was the only way you were going to get Apple Intelligence unless you had a 15 Pro from last year. And nothing was ready, and nothing still is ready because I'm on a beta. Some of it, I think a small sliver of it will be available next month. In December, we'll get a chunk, and then into January of next year, and then more. So, yeah, it's totally bogus. According to Qual, all of the iPhone 16 models sold worse than, get this, all of them sold worse than the iPhone 15. Apple moved around 37 million units, down around 12.7%. That's bad. From the iPhone 15 lineup on the first weekend. Qual noted that while the demand for the iPhone 16 Plus grew substantially, it wasn't enough to outweigh the poor performance of the Pro models. Another interesting note from Qual's report is that Apple had far more 16 Pro Max models ready for launch than 15 Pro Max phones with last year, I guess. With higher yields on the Tetra Prism camera, the company had 106% more devices prepared for launch day, so they made more because of the camera improvements. So, just interesting stuff that the one that's selling well was not the one they expected to sell well, and both the phones they expected to sell well are not selling well at all. So just very interesting. I said I'd be bypassing. Once I knew I could get the Apple Intelligence on the 15 Pro Max, I didn't see any reason for me to upgrade, and maybe that's how a lot of us feel. So on to the next one. Google's fines for the past, I just found this to be a really interesting story. Google's fines for the past 10 years worldwide. This was on Android Authority. So here's how much Google paid in fines over the years and why. And I guess we're all expecting more and more of this, maybe even some breakups. We don't know. It's more than just pocket change, even for one of the biggest companies in the world. This is from the 13th, so from last Friday. This was written by Matt Horn. So let's drop into read a view. Google quietly removed the "Don't Be Evil" model from its corporate code of conduct in 2018. I hated when they did that. It really bothered me. I guess a lot of people too. And the Android creator was also getting slapped with eye-watering fines during this period. Not as much as they're going to be, is my guess. Those two facts probably aren't related, but the tech giant has racked up sanctions running into the billions of dollars over the last decade to the point where it can be hard to keep count. We decided to tally them up. So here are the major fines Google has paid over the last 10 years and the reasons behind them. And one of the most interesting things about the story is from multiple countries all over the place. 10 years seems a reasonable window to consider, but it isn't completely arbitrary. Google hadn't been caught out so significantly before that, and when it was, the reparations were relatively small, at least compared to the ones you'll see below. Google has been asked to pay fines totaling around $11.4 billion. And that's a lot to us, but not so much to them in the last 10 years. Adjusting for inflation, the real terms value of these penalties comes to over $14 billion. But as you'll see in the story, in a 10-year period, that's not a whole lot for Google. So how much has Google paid in fines over the years? Below are all of Google's major fines over the last 10 years listed in chronological order. They were imposed in various currencies, but we've converted them to the equivalent amount in US dollars at the time to total them. We also wanted to know how much each of these fines would be worth in today's money, so we adjusted them for inflation based on the year they were handed down using an inflation calculator. So this whole list is going to give it to us in US dollars, but later on it's going to give it to us country by country in the monetary amounts that they use. So 2017, the European Commission hit them with a fine in US dollars, $2,547 million. In today's money, that's $3,270,000. Let me drop this out of readable. It's easier to read this chart in regular. Okay. There we go. 2018, again, the EU. 5,213 million. In today's money, that's 6,535 million. And you can see this is starting to add up. 2019, again, the EU. 1,708 million, 2,103 million in today's money. So that's just the first three fines just from the EU. Now, the U.S. Federal Trade Commission, same year, 2019, 170 million. In today's money, 209 million. In 2020, the French CNIL, 112 million. In today's money, that would be 136 million. Again, 2021, same, the French CNIL, 590 million. That really went up. In today's money, that's 685 million. Now Italy, same year, 2021. Italy Competition Authority, they hit them with a $123 million fine. In today's money, that would be a $143 million. Same year, 2021, South Korea Fair Trade Commission hit them with $177 million. And in today's money, $206 million. 2022, again, the French CNIL. They hit Google with a $158 million. And today's money, that would be $170 million. Same year, Australia Competition and Consumer Commission. They hit them with, to me, compared to the rest, this is a measly $43 million. In today's money, that's $46 million. Same year, 2022, India Competition Commission, $275 million. In today, it's $296 million. And this year, back to the French CNIL, $272 million. And that hasn't changed because that's only been a couple of months ago. Total, 11,388 million bucks. That's in 10 years. Total in today's money, over 14 million. So back into review. As you can see, Google's infractions have cost the company a hefty amount over the years. The fines imposed total around 11.4 billion and will feel like more to the company's balance sheet today. Since the biggest penalties were doled out several years ago, those amounts would be worth much more by now with a bit of basic investing. The inflation-adjusted total comes to over 14 billion. Now, get this. If that looks bad, these fines aren't even all that Google has been asked to fork out. These figures don't include settlements of lawsuits, such as the $400 million that was hit for a 2022 privacy case and another $700 million last year related to the Play Store and side loading. But again, this is Google. This is not a huge amount of money to them. We've only listed the major fines that Google has received and just those in the last 10 years. Between small fines for the company and its subsidiary since its foundation in 1998, it is very difficult to know how many times it has been penalized in total. Yeah, that would probably take a whole team of accountants. Why did Google get these fines? Yeah, here's where it gets interesting again. Are you wondering what got Google in hot water with the authorities? Here's a very brief overview of the reasons each fine was imposed. Now, we're going back to the years again and who did it, but you'll see it in their own in their own money. Google was fined in Europe in 2017 European Commission. Google was fined in Europe for abusing its dominance in search engine markets to favor its own comparison shopping service over competitors. And we've done stories on that. If the 242 billion euro amount sounds oddly similar to the one you've seen in the headlines this week, it's no coincidence. It's the same case that Google has been attempting to overturn ever since. And we reported on that they had lost that case to the EU. 2018, again, European Commission. Biggest punishment ever levied on Google, that was at the time, one of the largest in history, was this 434 billion euro fine for antitrust violations regarding Android. Google was found guilty of requiring manufacturers to pre-install Google Search and Chrome as a condition for accessing the Google Play Store, effectively limiting competition from other browsers and search engines. Again, European Commission 2019. European Commission wasn't done with Google, this time whacking the tech giant with a 1.49 billion euro punishment for abusing its dominance in the online advertising market. Google had imposed restrictive clauses and contracts with third-party websites, preventing them from displaying ads from Google's competitors. Yeah, that's a big no-no. YouTube was found to have collected personal information from children. Yeah, they don't like that. Okay, 2019, U.S. Federal Trade Commission. The big Google fine in the U.S. was more specifically for its subsidiary YouTube. The streaming site was slapped with a $170 million sanction by the FTC for violating the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act. YouTube was found to have collected personal information from children under the age of 13, big no-no, without obtaining parental consent and delivered targeted ads, which is illegal when it comes to children. And like they would care, right? Yeah, and Brian's agreeing with me. Google doesn't care. They make so much money, and that they probably don't. They probably make more money than those fines would even bother them from those fines. But still, it's an interesting story. France's Data Protection Authority, CNIL, same year, 2019, fined Google 100 million euros for violating the EU's GDPR regulation, and we've reported on that a lot. The fine was imposed because Google failed to provide clear and transparent information about its data collection practices. Yeah, I'm sure they kept it as vague as they could, and did not obtain proper consent from users for personalized ads. This marked, I'm sure their lawyers said to them, just go ahead and do it, because by the time they catch us, you'll have made a ton of money. And I'm sure they did. This marked one of the first major fines under GDPR, and we've been consenting to cookies ever since. 2021, French CNIL again. French authorities were just getting started with Google and imposed a huge 500 million euro fine on the tech company in 2021. It related to failing to comply with a ruling regarding the payment to news publishers for the use of their content. And I totally agree with it. Whenever they grab stuff from news organizations and don't pay them, and they're making money from it, they need to pay. The regulator criticized Google for limiting the scope of negotiations by excluding press images and not discussing proper compensation. I agree with them 100%. Okay, 2021, the Italian Competition Authority. In one of the most specific complaints, Italy's AGCM fined Google 102 million euros for abusing its dominant position in the market by excluding the NOx Juice Pass app from its Android Auto platform. Juice Pass is an app for locating and managing electric vehicle charging points. Yeah, it's kind of important to people who have EVs. And by excluding it, Google hindered its functionality on Android Auto. I can see where they would. Let's see. Brian said something. They should switch their catchphrases to "Don't be evil, do the right thing, be extra evil." Yeah, they've been making money. And I really agree with you, Brian. I just don't think they care. But my guess is as time goes on, they're going to get slapped harder and harder money-wise. And here in the U.S., now that things are really heated up, I wouldn't be surprised if they had to break off YouTube or break off search or something. So I think it's going to get worse for them. Okay, South Korea 2021, Fair Trade Commission. South Korean authorities rounded out a bumper year of parentheses. It sounds like crops, doesn't it? For Google by handing down a fine of 207 billion Korean won. Google was accused of abusing its market dominance by forcing Android phone manufacturers to sign anti-fragmentation agreements, which provided manufacturers from developing or using forked versions. Okay, they couldn't even use a forked version of Android. According to the Korean FTC, this effectively stifled innovation. I could see where it would, and competition in the smartphone operating system market. Now, this is the Korean one, I don't know, but let's go back and look at what this was in US dollars. So 2021 South Korea Fair Trade Commission. So if we go back up here, 2020, there it is. So in our money, they paid them 177 million. I just found it interesting because I know nothing about Korean won. Okay. 2022, French CNIL again. The French weren't letting up. Google hadn't acted sufficiently for the French, who fined Google another 150 million euros in 2022 for making it difficult for users to refuse cookies. And I wonder how, well, there's lots of you could do that programmatically. The CNIL found that Google's websites, including Google France and YouTube, did not provide an easy option to reject cookies, unlike the clear option to accept. So sure, they make it easy to accept, not so easy to get rid of, though. Location data controversy reared its head again. In 2022 again, Australia Competition and Consumer Commission. Location data controversy reared its head again down under in 2022 as Google was fined 60 million Australian dollars by the ACCC for misleading Australian consumers about the collection and use of their data. Let's go see how much that was in American dollars. I just find it interesting. Okay, 43 million in American. Okay. Google was found to have made false representations to users about how to turn off location tracking, or so they even lied about it, I guess, on Android devices. Even when users believed they had turned off location tracking, Google continued to collect their so they hadn't turned off anything. I could see why they got hit with that one. Again, 2022, India Competition Commission. More familiar complaints come to a head in 2022 as Google faced two major fines totaling 22.74 billion rupees. Let's go see how much that is in United States money. 275 million bucks. That's not bad. Okay. The first fine related to Android, where Google was found to have abused its dominant marketing position by promoting its own apps and services while restricting competition from others. The second fine addressed Google's Play Store policies, where the company was found guilty of enforcing unfair conditions on app developers, such as mandatory use of Google's payment system. Well, Apple's gotten in trouble for that and paid for it too. 2024, this year, again, the French CNIL. So the French are still not done with them. French authorities came after Google again in March of this year, fining the company 250 million euros. The company watchdog levied the penalty for Google breaching intellectual property rules and using content from digital publishers, again, getting stuff from publishers and not paying them, to train its AI service, Bard. Yeah, there's been a bunch of suits about this. This went against prior Google commitments made in 2019 case aimed at ensuring fair negotiations between press agencies, publishers, and digital platforms. Google allegedly used content from these third parties to train Bard without informing them or offering a technical solution to opt out. And we did report on those stories. Brian, thank you as always. You are very, very faithful. Okay, do these penalties hurt Google? and not much, but I guess it makes sense to keep doing it. 11 billion seems like a lot of money to most of us, and it's more than the annual GDP of some small countries. But Google isn't most of us. It's true. Alphabet, which is the parent company of Google, declared revenues of, get this, 307.4 billion in 2023 alone, with a net income, his profit, of 73.8 billion. So I don't think that little 14 billion in 10 years is hurting them a whole lot. In other words, it made enough profit just last year to pay off all the fines of the previous decade several times over. Exactly. This doesn't mean that such large fines don't register with Google. I'm sure their investors keep up with this stuff. And there may have been missed investment opportunities that could have been made with the inflation-adjusted amount of $14 billion. For example, the company only paid $2.1 billion for Fitbit, and Microsoft acquired GitHub for $7.5 billion. If Alphabet felt more generous after avoiding these fines, the amount would have been enough to offer, and get this, every one of its employees a $70,000 bonus, or give every adult in the U.S. $50. Boy, that's a lot of money. Get this, I like this. It's even enough to buy both the New England Patriots and the New York Giants, which Alphabet could then merge into one super team called the Google Algorithms. I like that. And right now, both teams are pretty bad, too. Complying with thousands of regulations isn't cheap. There's going to be more of them. Of course, this is too simplistic a way of looking at the expenditure on fines. Google probably prefers not to be fined, but what we can't know is how much profit the company made by incurring them. Complying with thousands of regulations isn't cheap, but the real payoff could come in the form of substantial extra revenue, right? Google was accused of unfairly promoting its own services, tracking more user data than it should, restricting competition, and more. All of these practices had the potential to add to Google's bottom line. You can count on it. We're not saying that Google intended to breach regulations. Well, on the one hand, my mind is thinking, if you want to be really cold about it, they probably intend. But on the other hand, you got to give them credit. Some of these regulations weren't even passed until part of the way through. So, till after the fact for Google. We're not saying that Google intended to breach regulations for financial reasons, and we don't know if it did, especially when offset against the fines imposed. Whether these actions were deliberate or merely the byproduct of rapid expansion, and that's probably true too, only time will tell how such trade-offs impact the company in the long run. We'll probably never know that. It's unlikely that the company execs are losing too much sleep over them. So just an interesting story, and I think it's nice for us to know at least they do get hit for all their what some of it is unfair practices, some of it is greed. I mean, yes, they're trying to make money like they're supposed to, but I just thought it was a good story that we'd like to hear. Okay. And next one, SpaceX. This is just a short one, but I just thought it was an interesting story. Why the SpaceX Crew 9 launch has been delayed again. Now, this is on Digital Trends, again from yesterday by Georgina Torbay. So, into read review. The SpaceX Crew 9 mission, which will see just 2 astronauts head to the ISS with 2 empty seats on their Crew Dragon spacecraft, has been delayed once again. This time, however, the delay is only 1 day, so it should have gone the 25th. Now it's going to be the 26th. So, next week. The mission had originally been slated to launch on August 18th with 4 crew members, but this was pushed back to allow time for the troubled Boeing Starliner capsule to return uncrewed from the station. Yeah, anything to do with Boeing, it's going to be a problem because they just do nothing but screw up for years now. And people die because of it. NASA decided that its astronauts, Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams, who traveled to the space station on the Starliner, would stay on the station. I'd rather not come back on Boeing's either. On the station and become a part of Crew 9 So the 2 empty seats on the Dragon are reserved for them to travel home in February of next year. Yeah, I'd say I'd rather come home in February of next year than get blown up in another uh, Boeing incident. The Crew 9 launch was then set for September 25th, but the one-day delay is so that teams can work through pre-launch operations and hardware processing ahead of the first human space flight launch from Space Launch Complex 40 at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, while also monitoring weather ahead of liftoff, NASA officials wrote in a statement. The new time for the launch is 2:05 p.m., so that's next Thursday. 11:05 a.m., 2:05 p.m. Eastern, 11:05 Pacific on Thursday, September 26th. The 2 crew members traveling on the launch are NASA astronaut Nick Hague, pictured above. Yeah, that's him. Come on. That's Nick Hague right there. He looks like one happy camper. I got to give him that. Pictured above, in the Russian cosmonaut Alexander Gorbanov. They will join Wilmore and Williams, plus 3 Soyuz crew members, as well as the current crew 8 members. I didn't know there were so many on the station, who will be leaving Earth after a short handover. This will be Hague's second mission to the space station, but his third launch into space, as he also launched on another mission that was aborted shortly after takeoff. He made it to the station in 2019 when he worked as part of Expeditions 59 and 60. To date, he has spent a total of 203 days in space. So he's in space. So he's got to be one of the most experienced guys in space on Earth right now. Once they arrive in space, the crew will work on scientific experiments, including research into the development of blood cells in space. There's a lot of great work done out there. And whether daily vitamin B supplements can help reduce vision problems that happen over long-duration space missions. They will also work on maintenance tasks around the station, such as installing special patches on an X-ray telescope attached to the space station called NICER, cool name, which will prevent light leaks and help the telescope take more accurate readings. Good. So I just thought that was a cool little story for us to learn about. So they only got delayed by 1 day. So if you're interested, next Thursday, 2:05 p.m. Eastern, I guess you can watch the launch. You know, and SpaceX shows all their launches on YouTube, which is awesome. So I usually follow them. All right, my last story. Intel. I just thought it was good for a change because we've been putting nothing but misery for them. Intel gets some good news for a change, at least in battery life, again on digital trends. And this was also from yesterday. Intel decimates Apple to take battery life crown by Jacob Roach. So read a view to get rid of some of these ads. It's no secret that a big reason you'll find MacBooks among the best laptops is the insane battery life that Apple's machines are claimed to process. Let me take a swig here of my green tea. Intel may have just snatched the battery life crown with its new Lunar Lake mobile CPUs, though. And we've been hearing an awful lot, and I've been reporting in a number of stories about that Lunar Lake chips that they've been developing, and they should be out very soon now. According to a battery test released by Lenovo, its Yoga Slim 7i Aura Edition, packed with a Core Ultra 7 258V chip, lasted 23 hours and 54 minutes, so just barely short of 24 hours, in a local video playback test. That's pretty good, beating both M2 and M3 MacBooks by over 5 hours. That's great. It's a bold claim and one that comes shockingly ahead of schedule. Yeah, because this Lunar Lake chips aren't technically out yet. Laptops packing the Intel's latest chips are set to go on sale on September 24th, so next week. So reviews should go live around that time, but Lenovo seems to have jumped the gun a bit with its battery test. Good for them. Although Lenovo doesn't clarify if this test was using a MacBook Air or MacBook Pro, it shows a dominant lead for upcoming Lunar Lake laptops. And like I said, they have been touting these for months. The M2 MacBook lasted 18 hours and 19 minutes, while the M3 MacBook pushed ahead to 18 hours and 32. Still, they're far behind the nearly 24 hours of battery life Lenovo laptop saw. That's great. Beyond Apple, this type of performance exceeds Copilot Plus PCs. In other words, they beat Microsoft too. We've seen with the Snapdragon X Elite chip, and they've been touting that chip a lot, but I guess this Lunar Lake is really all the great things that Intel is saying it was going to be, or at least battery life-wise, such as the Asus ProArt PZ13. In our own local video playback testing, this laptop lasted 18 hours and 39 minutes, that's the Snapdragon, with its M3 MacBook Air, while the M3 MacBook Air lasted 19 hours and 39 minutes. Still, that's a long time. The best performer in tests we've seen is Dell's XPS 13 9345, which lasted 22 hours and 9 minutes. Boy, that's great. Even then, Lenovo claims its upcoming Lunar Lake laptop lasts longer. Battery life is very important to the success of Intel's upcoming generation. With the release of Copilot Plus, there was a significant bump in laptop sales, so I didn't know the Copilot Plus laptops had sold so well. But that didn't come on the back of new AI features. It was due to longer battery life. Lunar Lake laptops won't have Copilot Plus features at release, but Microsoft says they'll receive support in November through free Windows updates. You always worry with Windows updates. Remember my problems from last week came from a Windows update. So anyway, they've been touting those Lunar Lake chips that they've been making, and they were saying they were going to be great. And I guess battery life-wise, they are great. So nice to have some good news for and from Intel for a change, because it's been a very long time since we've heard anything good from them. But I did tell you the story last week that the government was trying to help them also. So maybe things are beginning to turn around for Intel. So that'll be it for today, folks. Thanks, as always, for joining us. And like I said, if you're new here, even if you haven't typed anything in the comments, please stick with us. I'll be back next Friday. Sometime probably by Sunday. Look for my unboxing of the Apple Watch 10, and then this is the big one with the 46 millimeter. So interesting week for me, and this is why I'll be so busy in the next week or so. I've got 2 new watches, a new phone, and I've got phone comparisons to make. I've got to send back my original Apple Watch SE, and I just sent back my original Pixel watch, which I traded in for this Pixel 3. So, folks, thanks for coming by. Thanks for sticking with us. And we're looking forward to the stuff I've got upcoming. And always glad you guys are here. And you guys are so good to me. And I appreciate you so very much. By the way, I'm getting close to 4,000 subscribers, which I haven't been to before. So thanks to you guys for spreading this stuff around and letting people know about it who might be interested. And let them know that every Friday we do this and go over some interesting articles. So I hope you guys have a very blessed and wonderful weekend. And Eleanor and I will be going out to her favorite restaurant. Her birthday was this weekend. We waited till tomorrow to celebrate fully. So I said to her the other day, well, your birthday won't be over until we go to Rodizio Grill. So we'll be doing that over the weekend. So you guys have a blessed weekend, and I will see you next week, and maybe Ted or even Michael join us. Who knows? So always remember, we all do better when we love each other. See you next week, folks.